What's happening, everybody? My name's Seven and welcome to a top 10 video. In today's video I'm going to be giving you top 10 tips for how to play PvP online, also known as Ghost War in Ghost Recon Wildlands. Now at the moment in time it's the open beta, so everything I say here will still be applicable for when it goes live. So I hope you enjoy this. If you do, smash a like, join the channel by hitting that subscribe button. Let's get straight into tip number 1. Let's go. Tip number 1 is going to be everything environmental based. So many people don't utilize the barrels that are actually in the map itself. They are explosive. Like, watch this one here. As you can see, I shoot the barrel and it literally bang. That is enough to kill a player, and as you'll see in a moment, it will do that. But not only for kills or causing damage to enemies, you can use these as distractions because they're so loud and they're so permanent. They're like, whoa, where did that just come from, you know? And online, they always go off by accident. I rarely ever see anybody actually purposely do this. Like, they never really shoot them on purpose. They never really use them to cause any form of damage or any form of distraction. So definitely utilize these in the maps because, for one, it's just a shock. Anyone that hears an explosion randomly is going to be like, oh my god, especially when they're trying very hard. So as you can see, my mate stands next to an explosive barrel for me, and it's nicely set up to give you an example that these explosive barrels can kill. Tip number 2 is all about the classes. So at this moment in time there are 6 classes, and then there is a regular class that we can use. When this actually comes out as a full mode, there will be 12 that we can use, and then a standard. Each of these have different weapons, different attachments, different abilities. They have so many different things, and each class is very, very important. So as a player, it is very important to learn as many of these classes as you possibly can, so that, say for example, if you're playing online or in a custom match with your friends, or as a solo individual and you've been squadded up with a bunch of randoms, you need to be able to be flexible. You need to be able to go, okay, nobody's chose the sniper class, this is a long range map, I can take that class because I know how to use it properly, or I know how to use all the booby traps so we can set up and bait people, which I'll mention a little bit later in this video as well. Or if there's nobody up close and personal like a point man, or somebody who can take the directions of the enemy fire like a tank, you need to be able to take that. So learn the classes as much as you possibly can. Tip number 3. Now this is something a lot of people have requested, and don't worry, in the full game there will be weapon customization. At the moment in time you can only change the camo, but every single class that you unlock is useful in every single map. As I've said just previously in tip number 2 about being able to customize and learn the abilities of different characters and learn how to play with these, you also need to learn how to customize your character to match the environments that you're going to play in. Now I've suggested that when the game fully comes out there will be presets, so that we can, say for example, go into the map of Kooni and have a custom preset for every single one of the classes we have unlocked, so that our camouflages match that environment, so that then we can go into the foresty areas and we have a camouflage preset for our classes for that as well. So definitely learn how to utilize the camouflage, because this honestly makes you so much harder to kill in the game itself, and every single class can be customized and changed for the better. Moving on to tip number 4. Now this is all about knowing when to play aggressive and play passive. Everything is very situational, and you'll learn this when you play more of it for yourself, and sometimes it is best to risk your life and push, especially in a 1 versus 2, 1 versus 3 situation where you might have to get a kill to then get it down to 1v1. Obviously in these situations revivals are also very useful as well, but I'll go into that in a later tip. So the best thing to do in these situations are to either play really, really aggressive or to sit back, but the best way to figure that out is based upon whether you think the enemy that you've just previously killed is in the vicinity of the people that you are trying to then kill. Because if they are in the vicinity of their down teammates, you know they're going to go for the revive, or at least they might go for the revive, and this will mean you'll need to push. So try and practice learning how to play aggressive and passive. Don't be one or the other. You need to learn to be able to play like both. Tip number 5 is all about the enemy's equipment. This most importantly means the mines and the drones. In most games, drones launch early on, and if you regularly push forward with your team to a point that you're not going to remain in just to wait for these drones, this is probably one of the best strategies. And then when the drone actually does go up, if you shoot them, then of course it will pin you on the map roughly where you are, where you're shooting, but then at least the drones will be gone, you won't be fully marked. But for whatever reason, if you are fully marked, then you can then just use the tank on your team, if there is one, to to then, hey guys, take all the attention over to me. The other thing is you've got to be very careful of enemy mines. So I'm going to give you an example of what mines do. As you can see in the background, I placed down 2 of the mines. Now you can get the mines on some different classes. You can get them on the scout and sniper, for example, and I'm playing as a sniper. You can see that they cause unbelievable amounts of damage from what just happened to Skull in the background. So make sure you pay attention to the enemy's equipment and you take it out as soon as you possibly can. Tip number 6 is don't camp. So many people love camping, they love hiding out and just going, hey, I'll just wait until everybody's dead or until my teammates slay loads of people out. Avoid camping in PvP. This will only lead to your team being under insane amounts of pressure. It'll also leave you completely exposed and cornered, while the enemy team will have complete access to the one most important thing, which I'll be featuring in another tip in a moment, which is the intel, which reveals all of the enemies on the map. So they'll know where you are, they'll push towards you, and they'll slay you out. If you also sit still for too long, then you will be disconnected from the game. There is a timer, so you can't just sit there and wait for the game to kind of do its own thing. You will be removed from the game for not being active, as you should expect it anyway. So don't camp, always play with your team, move forward, move around. Whenever you put under pressure, move to the next area. Just whatever you do, don't remain in the same place for too long. Play the game of movement. Tip number 7 is going to be all about the Recon Tower. In so many games that I've played, I've noticed a lot of people just ignore this objective. They rush around trying to get the kills, and they camp for the kills and the intel, yet it's the most powerful tool in the game, and so many people ignore it. As you can see here in the background, I go for this as an example. I'm getting shot at, of course, because this is most likely what will happen once you start doing this, because it will notify the enemy that you are hacking into the laptop and you're going to trigger the Recon Tower, which will then expose them on the map. But if you do not utilize this, you are insane. This objective will not only help you win the game, but it's going to give you so much of a positional advantage. You're going to be able to know where to go next, what to do next, and how many players are in your vicinity, and how hard you're going to have to push your opponent to get the kills, or how passive you're going to have to play to get the kills. This Recon Tower is a must, so definitely play for the objective. Tip number 8 is all about the game mechanics, and the main mechanic that I'm going to talk about today is the revivals. The revivals are so important. Now, this is some footage of my brother actually reviving me and saving my life. Now, if he didn't do this, obviously the team would be at a massive disadvantage. I see so often in games, and I've even been in solo games myself, where I've had to ping my own location right next to a player who has no problem at all to revive me. He would not get suppressed, he wouldn't get shot at, he wouldn't be killed, and the guy just is so focused on getting his own kills that he's not reviving his teammates. Yet the games can go, and they already have done with me. They've changed from 1 versus 4 to 4 versus 1, and the teams have switched around. It can easily happen, so definitely pay attention to revivals and communicate and work with your team to get these. Try and avoid getting baited while doing revivals, and I'll talk about that in a moment, because that in itself is a whole different matter. So let's move on to tip number 9. Number 9 is about the baiting factor involved with revivals. Now, revivals are very majorly important. We already know this, I've just mentioned it in tip number 8, but one thing you can do in this game is, with the equipment I showed earlier on, the mines, you can set these next to downed enemies, so you can set these up as traps, so when the enemy goes to revive, you can then kill them by the explosive. This has happened to me multiple times, so it's very important that you check the area for these pieces of equipment when going for the revival, but also bait bodies too. So if you see an enemy that's up in their spawn, you know they're quite campy, they're not really aggressive, you will know that at some point an enemy will most likely push for the body. And so as you can see from here, Skull picks me up, and this enemy has been baiting my body, so they kill her, they kill me, and we're then 2 players down, and then go for the revivals after that to try and change the game's weight. So definitely pay attention to whether you might be able to bait or whether you're going to be getting baited by equipment. And finally, for number 10, this is so important. Make sure that you've got a really good headset, right? If you don't have a good headset, you are going to struggle quite a lot. I mean, you can still get kills and whatnot, but this is a perfect example of sound whoring. And if you listen very carefully, if you sit still for a moment and you know you're in the vicinity of an enemy, then you will hear them. You'll hear them walking around, crouch walking, running, whatever. And so I use this sniper class, and honestly, I cannot believe what happens. I can hear a guy moving, and I can just hear him there you go. Hello, mate. You're right. Sniper versus sniper. I chase after him and I actually get the melee. Now, this is a part of the gameplay that I'll be using in a future video, so definitely stay tuned. It's an absolutely amazing game. My best game so far in Ghost War, so definitely stay tuned for that one. Thank you for tuning in. I hope these tips have helped you and your teammates, especially when PvP goes live. Thank you so much for watching. My name's been Seven, also known as Martin Lee Woods. Like and comment on all that you love. Peace.